Welcome to the Foundations of Hitting course. In this course, you can expect a brief overview of the parts of the swing. In this course, we're going to cover the stance, the load and step, rotation and follow through, and timing. If you want a more advanced look into hitting, be sure to join the Wolfpack, where we offer our entire drill bank, all of the courses, mental game resources, and so much more. Let's get to work.
Welcome to Chapter 1, the stance. There are 1,000 different ways you could get into your stance, so when we're going over all of these options, figure out which one works best for you. There is no right or wrong here. Your job is to figure out which one is going to help you accomplish your hitting goals. So let's get into it. The first thing we're going to talk about is the two different widths of the stance that you can have. You can have a wide stance where our feet are going to be a little bit more spread out, or you can have a narrow stance where your feet are closer together. When you look at high-level hitters, you'll see both options. The stance is less about how it looks and more about how it helps you get into your load and into your step. You're also going to have different variations for how you want to line your feet up. A neutral stance is where you line your feet up directly to the pitcher, even with the chalk line in the batter's box. An open stance is going to be where your front foot, and that's the foot that's closest to the pitcher, is out further from the chalk line than your back foot. Your other option is going to be a closed stance where your front foot is closer to that chalk line than your back foot is. If you're unsure of which options to choose, go ahead and look at some of your favorite hitters and see what they do. We're trying to find which combination of choices is going to help us be the most comfortable and hit most consistently.
Welcome back to Foundations of Hitting. In Chapter 2, we're going to talk about the load and stride. First, we're going to discuss the load. When we load, we want to load into our back foot, not over our back foot, towards the catcher. And then from there, we'll kind of decide on what stride we want. Most hitters tend to go load with a smaller stride. That's pretty generic. But if you're a person who does more of a leg kick or a hover step, your load and your stride will tend to happen at the same time. The purpose of the load is to get us in rhythm, feeling the ground, get our foundation set, and get us on time with the pitch. We have to use our load in a way that is going to set us up into a good launch position. Now, what is a launch position? Launch position is that spot that you land in that you're looking to fire from. What we want to see in launch position is typically 50-50 weight with our legs. We typically want our knob to be facing back and down towards the catcher a little bit. And then from there, we want our shoulders to be either level or slightly down. Another thing about launch position is to feel the ground. That is the number one most important part, is that we want to feel the ground in our launch position. Not on our toes, not too much on our heels, but just feeling flat-footed on the ground, ready to work into the ground. A lot of common issues you'll see with launch positions are hitters who have uphill shoulders at launch position, hitters who have too much weight on their front side, or hitters who have too much weight on their backside, getting stuck. Also, sometimes we'll see hitters who are just on their toes a little too much. When we get to our launch position, it's very important that we feel really solid and in the ground, because as we go into rotation, we do not want to fire from a spot that is not strong.
This is Chapter 3 of the Foundations of Hitting course. In this chapter, we're going to talk about rotation and follow through. So in Chapters 1 and 2, you learned a lot about your stance and then your load and your step. Up until now, we've been focused on prepping our body to rotate and finding timing. Now it's all about getting to contact and following through. The first body position we're going to look to get into is called connection. This is where our body has already started to rotate. Our hips and our shoulders are pointed mostly to the pitcher, and our barrel gets parallel to the floor. What's important in the very beginning of our rotation is that we keep our hands high and close to our back shoulder. The next body position we're going to look to get into is contact. This is where our barrel actually goes to meet the ball. What we're looking for here is that our barrel is in front of our hands and our hands are higher than the barrel. We call this angle your vertical bat angle. Hands should always be above the barrel. After contact, we get to what's called extension. In extension, we want our barrel to continue on the path of the ball as long as we possibly can, making sure that our hands don't cut across in front of our body. After extension, we get into what's called rollover. Now, I know rollover gets a bad rap, but rollover is part of the swing just like your load and your step. What we're looking for in your rollover is that you roll over towards the pitcher, and it's not until we've finished our rollover that our hands now come across in front of our body. After rollover, all that's left is our follow through. Now you have two options for your follow through. The first is a two-handed finish, where both hands are going to stay on the bat as the bat finishes its path. Now your second option is going to be a one-handed finish. This is going to be where your top hand releases off the bat and the bat finishes its path with your bottom hand. Now in your finish, I'm looking for one thing and one thing only, and that is that our head is down, looking at our contact point. I want your chin to be touching the top of your shoulder.
Welcome to Chapter 4 of the Foundations of Hitting. In this chapter, we're going to discuss timing. Now, there's two main types of timing. We've got timing your swing, which is basically just your sequence, which is going to go load, step, rotate, follow through, and finish. And then our second kind of timing is timing up the pitch. This is how we use our load and our stride to get on time with the pitch and with the pitcher. When it comes to timing, we have 3 contact zones. We want to refer our timing to our front foot. When we catch the ball way too far out in front of our front foot, that's considered being too early. When we hit the ball on or in front of our front foot just slightly, we'd consider that on time. And if we're catching the ball way behind our front foot, we would consider that late. Now, we refer to these as contact zones instead of contact points because our timing for inside and outside pitches will vary. Now, the whole purpose of our load and step is to help us get to our contact zone on time. Typically, we want to start loading when the pitcher moves. You kind of have to see hitting as a dance. When they move, I move. And then a general rule of thumb for being on time is get your foot down when the ball is halfway home. It's important that when you're choosing your stance, your load, and your stride, that you pick one that helps you get to your contact zone on time consistently. If you're unsure of what stance and stride style is best for you, feel free to leave us a message and we'll help you out.